Welcome everybody to another installment of Qweerty Gamers Q&A. I'm really excited to bring you two very special guests. Today we are talking all on the subject of performance with voice and motion capture in video games. And today I brought you two incredible ladies. They have been in games such as Assassin's Creed Origin, Dragon Age Inquisition, Mass Effect 3, Jurassic World Evolution, the list goes on. They are incredible, incredible people, and I'm so excited to have them here today. Please welcome Alix Wilton Regan and Zora Bishop.
Hello.
Yay. Hi guys.
Yay! You can't hear the applause in the chat room, but it's there, I promise.
I would like that intro every day of the week. That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us and telling us about your amazing craft and the skill that you bring to these video game performances, because our audience, you know, they love video games. They love the games that you've been in personally. So they want to hear all about what you bring to the table when you bring your voice, your motion capture, goodness, all of it. So I'm really wondering, at the very top, can you, in words, describe what it is that you do in a video game?
Z, do you want to go first?
I don't mind. Do you want to go first? Oh, that's so polite. No, you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I bring excitement whenever I get involved in the booth or on a sound stage or a volume. I'm so excited to be there to tell a story that requires, you know, ultimate imagination and yeah, fun. Basically, is always usually a lot of fun. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I hope I also bring some excitement and enthusiasm. The beginning of the job, right? You always do for like the first few weeks at least. I'm joking. I do bring a lot of energy and excitement because essentially it's like a very big playground, right? That you're going to be in for a long time and exploring, especially if you're in like a really long game like Zora and I did together when we did Assassin's Creed. That was done over a year. So there were like loads of different, you know, peaks and troughs and avenues to explore. And I hope we also bring some, you know, craft and skill and voices and actor tools from our box of tricks as an actor. Mm-hmm. all the good stuff.
Yeah, so why don't you guys describe a little bit about what it is that you do from, you know, soup to nuts, as they say in America. So basically, are you going in recording voice first? Or are you doing motion capture first? Or are you doing both at the same time? What is the scale? What is the timeline, I guess, from when you're hired to when you see the game done? Talk us through that epic journey.
Sometimes it's, yeah, universes away. It's time, it's concept, it's artwork, it's, you know, script, character. It evolves and develops beyond your sometimes wildest imagination, you know. So, and also with what you were asking just before, I think it depends. Sometimes I am just motion capture, sometimes I do performance capture, which would be audio and body. Sometimes it's just voiceover. So I guess then it depends, because there's definitely a concentration, say for like motion capture, I would be very much aware of what my physicality was doing, whilst informed by perhaps script and voice, but not so much as, say, voiceover. It would be different depending.
And what Zora's saying, just in case anyone doesn't know the difference between the three. So for example, voiceover will just be us with our voices. So we'll just be in a voice booth predominantly working on that. Or you could then have voiceover and facial capture. So you'd still be in a booth, but you'd be wearing a head rig that was filming your face at the same time. And then I suppose the sort of the biggest step that you could go to, which Zora and I did on Assassin's Creed, was performance capture. So that's when you're taking our faces and our bodies and our voices at the same time. So for anyone who's seen like us in our lycra suits with our dots going off on our faces, or like Andy Serkis, who played Gollum in Lord of the Rings, the precious, it's that kind of vibe. So that's the performance capture. And that's really like the best way we could describe it is probably like shooting. It's like shooting a film, but with 180 cameras surrounding you at one time, as opposed to one camera focusing on one thing at one time. So you're constantly being filmed in the round, a bit like filming a play, I guess. And that can really be, I mean, from the time that I got cast on Assassin's Creed, then I got cast, there was an 18-month delay, then we shot on and off for a year, then there were DLCs, and then the game got released. So that was like a 3-year process for anyone who kind of really wants to know that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Well, we have a shout out for you in the chat room saying that they loved you as Samantha in Mass Effect 3. So just a little shout out for you. And we already have a question from chat already, which is, what is your favorite and least favorite part about motion capture when it comes to making games? This is from Kimberly27.
I can very easily answer one part of that question. Yes, yes. Someone needs to invent a shiwi for those motion capture suits, because women find it very difficult not to pee for 8 hours, whereas men can get away with it extremely easily without everyone having to know about it.
Yeah. I mean, we got to the stage on Assassin's Creed where I was saying to Laura, who was the floor manager of the sort of the space we're filming in. So I was saying to her, I was like, right, Laura, so we're starting at 9. I need a pee break at 11.
Exactly.
We're running late for lunch. We're picking up at 2. I'm going to stop at 3:30 for a wee, and then I'm stopping at 5 for a wee, even if we're running over. And I was just got very clear on what my boundaries were and when I needed to pee. And I was like, that's happening. Deal with it.
It's
I love it.
It requires a ROM of your configuration, and if it's off, then you can like have your arm sort of twisted around your head for the rest of the shoot, which obviously is not going to be useful at a later stage of development. Imagine.
That's incredible. Shiwi. Yeah. Shiwi. Another question, just jumping in. I want to get to these chat questions because they're engaged and they want to hear from you. And I get to talk to you guys anyways. So, what is your favorite character that you've ever portrayed in a video game?
Well, I don't know if anyone followed my Twitter today, but it was just announced that I'm playing this character called Tazzy in this upcoming game called Amnesia Rebirth, which is part 2 of a franchise called Amnesia. And the original game, I think, was released in 2010. So it's kind of 10 years later. And it's by Frictional Games. And I've been working on it since I think it was like June 2019. And we've just finished doing everything. And she was one of the most complex, interesting, traumatizing, like stretching parts that I've ever done in a video game, for sure. And I think the thing that I loved about what the developers did at Frictional is you can only play as a woman. That's your choice. And I was like, yeah, I'll take that.
Good choice.
That's your choice. And I have to say, for anyone who's out there getting their knickers in the twist about it being a woman, it is integral to the game that you as a woman, as you will discover as you go along. So that was a real honor and a real joy. I would say Tezzy was exceptional.
Amazing. Yeah, no, my favorite character was one that I played recently, was Harley Quinn. I only played the body. I was only the body capture, motion capture for it, but it was the most fun because the character is unbelievably
bonkers,
insane. It's so freeing to go in and just play. And I mean, Tara is absolutely incredible, who voices Harley Quinn, and her voice goes on forever. And it's just, and I got to play that voice in my own way as well, which was so much fun for me to do. And it was an honor to follow her as well. And then listening to her performance over mine, she just had these beautiful nuances in the way that because she knows this character through and through. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Harley Quinn, Matt, is a character and a half. She is big and bold and crazy and just so much fun to play. Just the opposite of me, basically. She is out there.
You get a Did you get a
yes, beating things up, man.
Now, do you get to hear Tara Strong's performance in your, like, before you do the motion capture, or how does that work?
No, so sometimes it can, I have done it when the voice, I've had to match my voice to I've had to match my body to the voice that has been pre-recorded, but that's usually not the way that it's done. We usually do body, and then there's a following of the voice. The voice performance. So no, I hadn't heard hers, but I gave my performance, which I think apparently she found quite sweet. I heard through one of the things, which is really nice to hear. And then I heard her take on the character afterwards, obviously, which is the final product. Yeah.
Did you do
awesome
that at Rocksteady? Did you do it in
yeah,
London?
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Tai T Bobasaur. The next thing, another question that came in from Scout92 for Alix. Out of all the BioWare characters you played, who are you most proud to play?
It is impossible to choose between Samantha Trainer and the Inquisitor, obviously, because the Inquisitor is just one really cool motherfucker. Sorry for swearing. But like, the Inquisitor's the Inquisitor, but Samantha Trainer is also both full of heart and full of smarts at the same time, and I felt very proud to be playing a gay woman in this game years ago now, kind of before it was really the done thing, and I felt like it was I just felt it was a really important piece of writing and storyline at the time in video games in general. And then to play opposite Mark Meer and Jennifer Hale as male Shep and female Shep, but to only go down the romantic relationship road with Jennifer Hale was like just a really lovely thing to do. And it was very emotional, and it was a very moving story. So Sam has all of this kind of just this beautiful, Sam has a beautiful story that has a few different paths. The Inquisitor has a mammoth story with loads of different paths, but is part of this universe that you just can't really top, you know? So I reserve the right to choose both.
Let's talk about romance scenes. Now, how do those happen? First of all, are you doing the vocals with the other actor in the same room? And are you also motion capturing the kind of romance moments?
You generally will not be with the other actor when you're voiceovering, but I have done some romance with other actors in the room. But with performance capture, you're doing all of it with the other actor, right there, like, right there, and there's like everyone's like there, you know. Everyone's just there, it's just watching, getting your thing on.
Now, if you both have headgear on, like you have the performance headgear on, what if you're trying to like lean in for a kiss? Do you just like bonk each other's heads?
Well, Chandler, let me talk you through it, my dear boy.
Please.
I'm looking
these are the questions. These are the questions we need to know.
Questions, totally innocent questions coming in from the gaming community. So when Abubakar Salim, who played Bayek in Assassin's Creed Origins with Zora and myself, when we had romance scenes, or sexy time, we would rehearse it a few days in advance before we actually got into the shoot. And then on the day itself, in the shoot, you will rehearse it, then you'll put your head cams on, and then you have to do all of this stuff, but you kind of have to be like this with them because you can't. So then when they're like, okay, it's time to kiss, you basically go like this, you go, you're like a meter away from each other, right?
Oh, I find it so funny.
Right? And then they've got the kind of general facial capture done and the general body, but then you'll take off your head cameras and then you'll go and you'll do it for real. And then so at that point I really jumped into his arms and I really did kiss him passionately, as I'd been longing to for the last 4 months. And no joking. but at that point it's kind of like you're doing a scene in a film, right? So then they can get the interactions of the bodies without the head cams keeping you a meter apart.
Mm-hmm.
Several takes so that the animators can get everything that they want.
Lovely. Shout out to Zora for her amazing portrayal as Cleopatra in AC Origins. from the chat.
Oh.
The next question for Alix and Zora: how much character development description are you given? This is for Aya and Cleopatra specifically. Do you have pen portraits, concept, etc.? And did you have some freedom to bring your own interpretations to the characters? This is from Too Old for Multiplayer.
Never multiplayer. Z, do you want to take it, babe?
I don't know where to start. We saw, so sometimes you get almost no information because of NDAs, because of whatever, it's secretive, and they don't want to give they don't want to give much information away. So kind of what you have is your watermark script that you have to look after with your dear life, otherwise you're in trouble. And then some people, like recently, not specifically to Origins, but recently I had maybe a 4-page breakdown on the character, and it was like traits, it was drives, it was fears, it was shadow self, it was everything just beautifully mapped out in like in a way that I've never seen before. So sometimes a lot of thought has gone into it, and I think that was the case for Origins. No, Alix, there was a lot of information initially on who these characters were and their stories, because the story was, especially at the beginning, like
the story was
factor. Yeah,
I mean the story was amazing, and it ended up, of course, being a brilliant story in the form that it was released as a game. But it obviously, I think, you know, with a lot of the exposés that have come out recently, people know that the story changed dramatically over the course of the 3 or 4 years that Zora and I were involved in it, which of course inevitably means that Cleopatra changes, Cleopatra's journey changed, so the character of Cleopatra changes, Aya's story arc changed, therefore the character of Aya is changed. You know, the story that the designers, narrators, writers, directors, producers choose to show, which the gamer will experience in their home, obviously informs the way that they also receive and interpret the characters of Aya and Cleopatra. If that
beautiful. Yeah, I totally I understand that that it can change drastically from when it starts. Now, just to kind of reflect a little bit on the question, when you are given these kind of character descriptions or no character descriptions, do you ever go back into past games? We have a question from a Warpath Dylan who says, this is specifically for Alix, but obviously Zora, you can jump in. When you are playing a character that has been in a couple iterations, do you go back and look at the prior performances or the prior games, or do you play the games at all to kind of have an understanding?
I would do if I felt it was relevant, yes. Just the same way as I would for a film or a TV job. And anything that I feel like I need to know as an actor to do my job better, to understand, for example, the universe that we're in, or in Assassin's Creed, so the lore of Assassin's Creed, so on and so forth. Like, it's really important for us to digest that in advance. So I would definitely go and research that. And actually, in our co-star Abu, he is the biggest gamer. He's played every Assassin's Creed, and we had him on set every day that we were on set. So he was amazing, you know, because he was like a walking encyclopedia.
Yeah. And I guess for like characters like Harley Quinn, I would definitely, you know that story. And I'd also know like the different, you know, why the story is even relevant now and how hopefully it will be changing, because I know characters like Harley Quinn have been, you know, they're problematic to a degree in terms of domestic abuse and, you know, moving that character forward and how important that is. And, you know, it's good to know where the character has been, and in order to inform where it's going as well, hopefully.
I think just to kind of go back to the original question about how much input we do or don't get into a character, in my experience, the smaller and more intimate the company making the game, the more creative input we will have into our characters. That has been my personal experience. The bigger the machine, the more frightened people are to, you know, rock the boat or do something different, and it has to go through 27 levels of people above them anyway who might not approve the choice. So it becomes very difficult, right? I suppose it's a little bit like if you equate a huge game a game that costs $250 million to make, that's the same as making a $250 million Hollywood movie, right? So any changes have to be approved by 65,000 people above you. So that's really difficult. Where I feel like we get the most input is when it's you, the head writer in the room, you know, the producer of the company, for example, and they're really like, give us your gold, Alix, give us everything. Like we want to extract this well of, you know, of expertise that you've amassed for the last 10 years, or this knowledge of gaming and how you act in games in the universe, or these characters that you've played, not just in games, but that you've done on TV or in film that you've read about, so on and so forth. I feel like quite often the more intimate the relationship between actor and development company or studio making the game, the more they want from us and the more we get to contribute.
Lovely. Now I have another question from a one Adam Lanon. He's asking a question for me. He's saying, which character out of the X-Men universe would I like to see Alix and Zora portray in a video game? And my answer to this is I'm going to cast Alix as Emma Frost, aka the White Queen, and I'm going to cast Zora as Betsy Braddock, aka Psylocke.
Woo! I'll take it. Good answer.
To casting, Chandler.
And then he wants to know why, and I don't know, I don't know how to dive into my decisions on that, but obviously Alix is wearing white, and she, I think she can command the performance of Emma Frost. And Zora, the short time I've known you, you seem very, very sweet and very proper, as they say, when it comes to Betsy Braddock. So yeah, so I feel like you could definitely bring and also bring a little bit of color to her. She's a bit of a dry character, so I think you could actually make people like her. Okay. So that's what I'm feeling. That's my casting choice. We also have an amazing little moment in the chat that said, Sam and Liara really helped me come to terms with my sexuality, so I just want to say thank you so much. So that was from Scout92. Thank you, Scout. That's a beautiful.
You're welcome. So welcome. I'm so glad that they did.
This question, let's see. Oh yeah, this is a question that you kind of touched upon regarding Assassin's Origins, and they said it was revealed that Bayek was going to die in Assassin's Creed, and then you would continue to play as Aya for the rest of the game. What did you think about that when you were originally told that, or when you when you think about yourself continuing the game? Were you excited about that?
Oh, I mean, like, it would have been an incredible experience, absolutely. And I personally felt that fans of the franchise were ready for it. I personally felt that gamers were ready for it. I personally felt that the gaming world was ready to have a sort of kick-ass lead female Assassin's character in Assassin's Creed Origins. But clearly, unfortunately, people who actually make the decisions and build the games and have the money and the power and the influence did not feel this, So of course it was a disappointment. But I have to say, and hand on heart, I really do mean this, I still think they made a sensational game. And Abu truly is probably my best guy friend now. And since we met all those years ago, he has become an integral part of my life, as a friend, as a colleague, as an idiot younger brother who's like way more successful than me and like really annoying, but whatever, it's fine. but he just did an amazing job. And I think that, yes, obviously there were trials and tribulations and successes and disappointments along the road of Assassin's Creed Origins, but none of that detracts from the fantastic job that he did do as Bayek, as the leader of that game.
Absolutely. Would you guys like to see more women leading characters in video games?
I wonder. No, actually, no more women. Out with women. Yes, please. Yes, always. Like, we need more female repping and like across the board, everywhere. I did some filming last week, and there was just women everywhere, and it was amazing to just be in a room of women, just collaborating and running things, because it's not just one type of person who can do that. You know, we can all do it. So yeah, more women, please.
So I think it's just about like, I just feel like the world is ready for it. The gaming community is ready for it. It's not, I don't see it as this huge deal that needs like deliberation and fact finding and will it work, won't it work? You know, I genuinely hope that when Amnesia Rebirth comes out, people play it and they're just like, this is a fucking kick-ass game. And they don't particularly think about the fact that they're playing as a woman versus not playing as a man. They're like, it's just a kick-ass game. And I'm terrified because it's a sort of horror game in case anyone doesn't know. And they're like, I'm terrified and it's amazing. And the performances were brilliant. And I've been taken on this huge, wild journey. You know, that's kind of, I just, you know, all the stuff that went on with Assassin's Creed. And then of course there's Assassin's Creed Odyssey after that, you know, and then there was stuff that I read about that happened to the woman that played Cassandra in that as well. And it just kind of feels like there was way too much sexism born out of this ignorant protectionism of something that they wanted to hold on to so tightly. They were so frightened of letting go. And they really didn't need to be that worried. You know, it's 2020. Our game was released in when was our game released? See? 20
years ago.
17? 20? No, our game was released in 2017-ish or 2018. But you know, it just, they didn't need to be so worried. You know, people are not going to, no one's going to die if you play as a woman.
Yes.
It's okay, you'll live.
Yeah.
You'll be okay.
And then hopefully we'll move beyond a sort of tokenistic, you know, element to it as well, where, you know, oh, it's you know, you could, you know, like you say, play as a woman. Ooh, you know, no, it's just part of the course. It's a woman's story, and it's a person of color story, or it's a queer person story. You know, it's just a story. It's a person telling a story, or an alien. You know, whatever. We don't have to get so caught up in this as more people should be writing as well, more women writers, more.
Absolutely.
You know, it starts with drama schools. Actually, it starts with drama schools, it starts with primary schools, it starts with education, it starts with people feeling like they can, you know, and that means that more women go into writing, directing, producing, and then you know, we rise it up and it trickles down as well.
Now, as a person that loves to choose to play the female character in video games, I absolutely agree. I would love to see more myself. But of course, lately, if I feel like in the games that I play at least, you get to choose, such as Dragon Age Inquisition, you get to choose. And so you get to kind of have the story that you want. And I like the option as well. I think it's really nice to have, and you know, you can change your skin color, you can change your sex, you can change anything you want about yourself to make yourself feel more included into what you're about to experience. We have a question from Valkyrie. Are there any games you'd love to perform in? You can mention a specific game title or even just a genre if you want to be more broad.
I would like to play more like kick-ass shit, just because whenever I get to do it, I have so much fucking fun. So much fun. Just, yeah, fantasy and kick-ass shit. That's what I want to do.
I'd like to do 3 things, I think.
Yeah, I knew you were going to be specific. I would like.
First of all, I want to steal Zora and Tara's job because I'd really like to play Harley Quinn. So that's not going to steal their jobs. Then I would like to do, okay, so when I was signed on for Assassin's Creed, it's so embarrassing. I took up boxing because I really thought they would let me do the stunts in the game. And I was like, but Assassin's Creed is full of so many amazing stunts. So when I get there, I'm going to be on wires and I'm going to be jumping off stuff. So I got to get fit, man. I got to learn how to fight. Then I show up and they're like, no, you don't get to do any of the stunts. I was so heartbroken. I can't tell you. I'd like to do like another Assassin's Creed, but maybe just as the stunt woman, just only doing the stunts, or maybe doing. I'd like to be the female Tom Cruise of the video game world. I do all my own stunts, all my own wire work. I would love to lead I'm very, very, very inspired by Jen Hale as an actress in the video game world. And she did such a stellar job as FemShep. And I would love to lead a sort of 3-part franchise storyline, just like a massive arc of 3 games through an extraordinary universe. It could be anything, but I just love that volume of.
Oh, yes.
It's because you get to do so much. This is the thing. People think you're being greedy, and you're like, no, you get to. It's not the greed. If you're greedy for anything, it's the acting experience and opportunities, right? You get to fall in love. You get to watch people die. You love people. You lose people. You have sex. You cry. You fight. You win. You lose. You have moral dilemmas. You go through everything in these games, you know. And you did that. I mean, I certainly went through that on Dragon Age Inquisition. But I would just love to have that as a trilogy, something like that as a trilogy, you know, hopefully one day, touch wood. So it'd be quite a cool thing to do.
Absolutely. I think what you said about, you know, being able, I think it's just being allowed to use your imagination in any way whatsoever, because you're given a blank room. It is grey. There's just stuff, there's nothing there, and you have to create whatever it is, and it's so good. You know, playing down at your park when you were little and you know zombies are coming or whatever, but you're 30 and you're still doing it, and it's
it's true.
Yeah, amazing.
Now, where did you guys learn to train how to do this? Like, is there a movement school that you went to, or just drama training, or just talk a little bit about how you've prepared through your life to kind of play these types of roles?
I had nothing like this at drama school, at like zero, strictly zero. And in fact, when I left drama school, it was very frowned upon to work in games. People were like, oh, you're working in video games, I'm so sorry. It's like really patronizing. Now the conversation is, oh my God, you're working in video games, how do I get into this? It's a very different world, you know? So no, I had absolutely no training for video games. I went in blind, and I think a bit like what Zora just talked about, I just have an aptitude for incredibly vivid imaginations and really going into that and just really committing to that. And I think because I'm not afraid to commit to those choices, that reads very well when you're only performing with your voice down the microphone. It's kind of what I would say. But Z, any training in it?
No. I mean, I went to drama school. I mean, we did radio for about 10 minutes, and we did film for about 10 minutes as well. I mean, I'm underestimating it, but, you know, maybe like 2 weeks on it, you know, and that's neither of those two things covers motion capture or performance capture. It is people try and say that it's a halfway house between theatre and film, but it's not. It's more, you know, or different at least, you know. You are on set, you have the input of things. You have this lamp, you have this you know, you have the alien opposite you sometimes, you know, sometimes, but in these rooms you have to create it yourself, and that requires a different skill. Also, just in your body, like, who are you playing? Are you playing someone who's heavier than you? Are you playing someone who is taller than you? Are you playing someone who, you know, which you would never get to do on film or in theatre? So it is similar in ways, and yet it's not as well. But if you have an instinct as an actor, it will translate to motion capture, especially once you have experience as well.
Do you have any advice for people that want to start doing what you do? Like, how, if somebody's like, I've never been in a game, maybe they have drama training, maybe they don't, but just what would you recommend that they do to get in the door, so to speak?
I think from my, sorry, Z, go for it if you want to go, Scott. No. I think from my point of view, what I've seen change in the industry since I've been in it is voiceovers, as they used to be called, have a very difficult time now getting acting jobs. They don't want voiceovers, they want voice actors. So that really entails going down the path of being an actor first and foremost. If you want to do games specifically, you know, commercials is a different thing, corporates is a different thing, audiobooks is a different thing. But if we're talking about acting in video games, you really kind of do have to start out with being an actor, you know, and having that passion for imaginary worlds, character building, so on and so forth. And I think that once you've sort of gone down that, maybe done a bit of training, maybe worked out what your voice can and can't do, maybe worked out where you need to stretch it or refine it, for example, then I would say, you know, go and watch every single YouTube video, an interview that's been done by prominent voice actors such as, you know, Jennifer Hale, Courtney Taylor, Ali Hillis, Tara Strong, so on and so forth, Zora Bishop, Alix Wilton Regan, also solid choices. But, you know, listen to what people have to say about things like microphone technique. And then I guess maybe put together some sort of a demo reel, you know, of what you can do. Because really to get the kind of work that you want, that they might want to be doing, the sort of work that Zora and I are doing, it does go through your agents. You know, it's a big world now. It's cast from a casting director for the company via your agent, with auditions, with callbacks, and yeah, you know.
Zora?
I mean, in terms of voice, I would have said exactly the same. You know, I saw something with Nick Kroll, who voices a lot of American animations, who's so good and so funny. And I saw a YouTube with him, and he had different images given to him, and he would be like, I think this character would sound like this, or I think it would go, you know, and he like developed these voices for these images. And I think that could be a really good, nice exercise if you have nothing, if you have no agent, you have, you know, and you just want to see, you know, what you're capable of doing. Google a few images and record yourself and create some characters and see where your imagination takes you. In terms of motion capture, I'm not actually 100% sure how. I mean, I fell into it because I thought I was auditioning for a film, and my agent thought I was auditioning for a film. So I think there's also that in terms of, you know, you can just open a door and you know, some people just appear in this avenue, and great, you know, what an avenue to be walking down. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I think there are schools opening up though of motion capture.
I mean, I know in the UK there are motion capture courses that you can do, which I would always say is a great thing if you have a bit of disposable income or some savings on the side, because it's not cheap. But if you want to spend a week doing that or a long weekend doing that, you know, if you think you'll get a lot out of it, do. But I would just caution people against thinking that doing that course will automatically equate to booking work.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, that's just not how our business works.
I also think that there's a call for drama schools to be changing their training, because in many ways, especially I've become aware of it more apparently in terms of like Black Lives Matter, in terms of like diversity of syllabus, you know, people coming in who are representing, you know, everyone in terms of directors and the industry. I just think that with even the training could develop in terms of the actual realities of the industry now, because, you know, theatres are closed now for start, you know, it's COVID and there are no theatres, but it's mostly classical theatre training is what we deem our drama schools, I think. And now we've started doing film. Okay, great. Now we're doing film. Let's go more into film. Let's go into motion capture. Let's teach students, and voiceover, and not just voiceover, but voice performance and radio. You know, let's go into these avenues that are being explored now, that people can work in, that you know, are viable options, and they're great acting opportunities as well. And they, you know, I've met some A-list celebrities doing my work. It is nothing to be laughing about, and it is moving forward as well. Like, it's popping up all over the place, and yeah, it's only going to get bigger. So it seems a strange choice to not have that as part of a sort of drama school's syllabus as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We're getting some great chat in the room, basically saying that they want BioWare to give Alix her own trilogy. So you can bring Zora into the cast with you, and you guys can share a trilogy together. One thing, one question from ratings. I'm not going to ask that question just because it's basically a spoiler on Dragon Age 4 for Alix, and you can watch her media training kick in just to be like how she can't answer that question. So I'm going to skip to the next one. This is again from Too Old for Multiplayer. A COVID-related question. Have you both been able to work from home, and do you have your own voice home studios?
I have worked from home a bit. I did not have a voiceover studio to begin with. I also did have COVID, so that was extreme. Didn't have a voice booth, did have COVID, so that was a bit extreme. But once I got over that, my lovely partner, Adam, researched everything and bought, you know, really not the most expensive, not the fanciest thing on the market, a portable voiceover booth that we've put in a room just off here. And I was recording huge chunks of games in that for 2 titles that I'm already in. So I think I can share that's already been announced, Ghost Recon and Amnesia. You know, huge chunks of these games were recorded in that voice booth. And I was very, very grateful for the work after having no work for 3 months, you know? So I feel very grateful to have it.
Yeah, I mean, I have some stuff as well, but I never actually got around to doing anything. So I'm still waiting to go into a studio to do it. I think my internet's not very good. Partly. But also things seem to be changing in terms of going back into the room again. So I do have the equipment, but I never got a chance to use it.
Next question from California girl, Chris. Do you find it easy to recall certain voices you've created?
Yes. Yeah. Aya, because she was very different to my voice. She was very low. And we invented an accent because no one knows what people who are half Greek and half Egyptian sounded like back in the day. Mm-hmm. Aya, Samantha Trainer was basically a Londoner, but like stronger Londoner than myself. The Inquisitor was sort of posher, younger Alix, because it was, you know, fantasy, RP. For an RPG, RP means received pronunciation, for anyone wondering. So yeah, and then my animation characters who are like really crazy. You know, you don't forget those voices.
Yeah, of course. You mentioned in a call that we had earlier about how you get information in buckets. Can you describe a little bit about how the bucket system works in video games?
Yeah, so we get chunks of the game as we go along. So I guess you'll audition with a part of the arc, as we were talking about before, the arc of the story, but perhaps you will only have, you know, bucket 1, and you'll take, I'm not sure if it's specific to certain companies, but I think they do it in chunks.
I like that we're calling it buckets, but that might just be our word for it.
That might just, yeah.
That all companies operate buckets, just us. But it basically means a section. Yeah, a section.
A chunk, yeah.
Got it.
Sometimes you don't know where, because I always think of like a game narrative as like a tree. There's like a main narrative, and then there's like these deviations, and when you're never 100% sure where that tree grows, you know, it's not always apparent to you at the start or even halfway through. And
do you guys remember the first video game you played or that made an impact on you?
Mario Kart. I remember playing Mario Kart when I was like super young, you know,
yeah.
Like, all devices racing each other. And then Game Boys, Tetris, and again, Super Mario Brothers. I remember all that stuff from when I was a kid.
Amazing. My first one was Resident Evil Nemesis, but I never played myself. I watched my cousin play, but I used to watch him for hours and hours, and I got so scared. I think it was in like 2000, was it, when that game, it's the third one, isn't it? And it's been re-released recently. But yeah, absolutely terrifying.
Talk a little bit about the interaction you have with the fan community, like the video game fan community. Do you get to meet anybody that plays the games that you've acted in, or, you know, talk a little bit about that maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I love my fans, I have to say. you know, I'm very outspoken politically and socially on my platforms. So the racists and the homophobes and the misogynists tend to fuck off pretty quickly because I don't stand for that shit. So,
Good.
Nice, clean platform for me. So, so I, you know, I love the fans I interact with. You know, they often know, they often have great politics and great ways of thinking. So I find them interesting as people anyway. They often know far more about the game than I do. So, because they've like delved deep into it. And they're like, what do you think about this bit? I was like, yeah, that bit was intense, right? Was it intense? They were like, no, it was really funny. I was like, oh yeah, it was hilarious, that bit. I loved that bit. So they know a lot more than I do often. And they're just very generous, and, you know, they do fan art and they ask you to, you know, record funny messages for them, and they'll send you cards at Christmas. I mean, it's a very generous, loving community in my experience. And I appreciate that's a privileged experience that I've had. And I know certainly a lot of women in particular are far worse than me, you know, and a lot of, you know, actors of color have had horrible racist things said to them online, which is grotesque. And I admit I've not had that experience. My experience has been very positive, and I feel very lucky in that regard.
Zora, have you had a chance to interact with any fans of Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, I mean, not that many, but I think they're mostly after Boo and Alix. But the ones that I've met have been so super supportive. You know, I mean, Cleopatra is, you know, she's close to my heart. I adore that character so much. I've had a couple of people send or talk about photos that they've drawn from, you know, like the fan art that Alix was just talking about. Mm-hmm. It's actually really impressive. Some of the stuff that fans come up with in terms of, you know, just making more, producing more based on the games. It's very cool.
Now, I have one final question from the chat. This is from Warpath Dylan. Is there any game that you voiced on that you would have loved to have voiced a different character in it when you read the scripts or later saw the game? Like, especially Inquisitor, if you think there's all sorts of characters in Dragon Age.
I think, to be fair, I had the best character in the Inquisition.
You did.
I was happy with that. Do you know what? I've been so blessed with the characters that I've played. I actually, do you know what? I loved, partly, I'm not just saying this because you're here, Zora, but I loved watching Cleopatra, and I did love Cleopatra's journey within it. And it was interesting, and it was smart, and it was political, and there were often lots of people on the set when we would shoot those scenes. And I did remember thinking, that also looks really fun, you know. And Aya was a gift of a role, of course she was, but I do remember thinking at the time, oh, that's quite cool too, you know, especially with the weird carpet scene where we were like, how are we going to get her out the carpet? Do you remember that?
The what? Oh god.
Cleopatra out the carpet, because when Cleopatra meets Caesar, of course, it was the famous thing. She was rolled out of the carpet, and we spent hours. How would we get her in the room, unroll her from the carpet? Whole thing. I was like, this is so much fun.
And then they just roll out like this.
Yeah. Natural.
Like, I'm not sure if use that.
We have one shout out that wants to see Alix as Iron Bull. Well, I want to thank you both so much for joining me today, but I want to hear from you. Where can people find you on social media? If anybody that's watching wants to interact or tweet at you, give us a shout.
Yeah, so mine's at Zora Ruth. That's Twitter. I am on Instagram, but I mostly just voyeuristically watch people. I do participate on Twitter.
And I'm just at Alix Wilton Regan. So my name, all one word, Alix with an I, at Alix Wilton Regan on Instagram and Twitter. I don't really do Facebook, but yeah, Instagram and Twitter.
Awesome, awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and Qweerty Gamers. It's been a total joy and a lot of fun. I loved learning about how video game characters make out. That was something new for me. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you again, Alix, when we are allowed to be in each other's presence once more. And would love to meet you, Zora.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me. Amazing.
It's been really lovely.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks. I think David's going to sign us off.